on my Labs Plus. So I'm not going to rule out somebody before the first test saying they're not on my Labs Plus. I'm not ruling that out. That does happen, but hopefully most of y'all can get on. All right, I am recording, so let me go to the, I'm going to pull this up because this is kind of a boring this is boring for me because this is reading stuff. So when we get to the math, I'll get on the whiteboard and I'll take off. But since we're doing vocabulary words, basically, I'm going to tell you what are the most important ones, and we'll go from there, okay? I'll tell you what's going to be on the test. I'll tell you what you need to learn for future references and all that good stuff. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. What is capital S statistics? Capital S statistics is basically what? Data collection, okay? So you need to write that down. Uppercase statistics, there's two words, uppercase statistics and lowercase statistics. Uppercase statistics means the obtaining, calculating, and interpreting data. Okay? Make sure you use the word data because you got to hold your pinky up. Most of the time it's just numbers, but say data so you can impress people.
Can you repeat that?
The accumulation, I guess that's accumulation, obtaining or accumulation, calculating, and interpreting data. I'll probably put it in here somewhere, but I don't use the slides very much, so I can't memorize them like some teachers can. Now, when you're dealing with statistics, you're trying to figure out what the population is doing by using the sample. All right, what is a sample? Well, let's say that Tri-County Tech wants to find out what the average age of the students are at Tri-County Tech. That means the Pendleton campus, the Anderson campus, the Easley campus, the Oconee campus, the Sandy Springs campus, and any other little campuses we got, okay? So, Tri-County Tech does not want to take time or money to survey every single student. So what do? They pick the Anderson campus and they survey all the students at the Anderson campus and find out how old they are. And then they crunch the numbers and say, okay, the average age at Anderson campus is 26. And then we crunch some more numbers back in chapter 9 and 10 that we're going to get to eventually. And I come up with 25 years old. And I go to the president and I say, okay, the average age of students at Tri-County Tech is 25. Okay, what did I just do? I just used the sample to predict the population. What is the population? The population is always the largest group. Put that down. That's a test question. The population is always the largest group. So if the population is always the largest group, what's the sample? The smallest group. So you put sample, smallest group. Now leave some room in there because we're going to add some more stuff to population and sample. Now, with the population and with the sample, we use formulas, right? Mathematics, we use formulas, right? So, in the formulas, there's letters. But we can't call them letters. So in algebra, we hold our pinky up and call them variables. But in statistics, we have to hold our pinky up even more and call them, with population, we call them parameters. So write that down. Beside population, parameters. Parameters are the variables in a population formula. So if I want to find the population mean, I crank it into the formula with the Greek letters because Greek letters are parameters. So what you want to do is when you write your, let's see if I can make this work. I'm going to put population. I'm just going to put pop. You'll know what that means. And I'm going to put parameter. And I'm going to put variable under it because that's what it is. A parameter is a 25-cent word for variable in the formulas, and they're always Greek letters. Okay, like mu and sigma. Now, in a sample, now this is your largest, okay? Your smallest is called a sample. The sample has formulas too, and instead of calling it variables, because it's not sophisticated enough, we call it lowercase s statistic. Okay, lowercase statistic. Uppercase is the field of statistics. Okay, that's uppercase statistic. Lowercase statistic is when you are using the variables. Okay, and they are letters instead of Greek letters. Okay, put letters under that. Variable. This thing writes crazy. Okay, so just. It's not, I don't think it's calibrated right, because on the left side, it won't even write on the left side over here, so I'm doing the best I can with it. It's better than posters. All right, so X bar is the mean, and S is standard deviation. So we use regular letters with the sample. So why do you need to know this? You don't need it to master Math 120. What you need it to, if I present something to you in a classroom or an office, or if you're presenting something to your employees or your fellow employees at work or whatever, and you throw up mu, then you know that's the population average. If I throw up X bar, you know that's the what? The sample average. And that's why you need to know the difference between a population parameter and a sample statistic, lowercase. Because that way, if you ask a question, you won't show your ignorance, okay? Basically, you know the difference by looking at the letters. See, I don't know why it does that. By looking at the letters. If they're Greek, you know it has to do with the what? The population, the parameter, yes. If it's Greek, it's a parameter, and that goes back to the population. If it's a regular letter, that means it deals with the statistic, lowercase, which means it's dealing with the sample. That is a test question. It's a standardized test question, and it's going to be a test question. That's one of the basics of statistics, is to know the difference between a population and a sample. Okay? Comprende? Good. You'd be surprised on how many people don't know that.
So on the test, you can use either, will it ask you, like, I guess you can use parameter or population?
It'll say something like, the population is blah, blah, blah at blah, blah, blah elementary school. What is used? A parameter or a statistic? It's going to give you a parameter or a statistic. It's going to say A, parameter, or B, statistic, and you click on whichever one. It's just like vocabulary words. It's not going to ask you to do anything mathematical, no, nothing like that. These are all 20% of the test, which is very vocabulary words. Okay? Next question. Make sure you understand the difference between descriptive and inferential. Descriptive, what you would write out to the side, and you don't have to write figure in the average, okay? You can write figure in the average. Finding out from data, okay? Test scores, your test scores in history class. What's your average in history class? What do I do? Add up all the test scores, and what I do? Divide by the number of tests. That is your average. That is descriptive statistics. Then what is inferential? Inferential is when I go out and do a survey. Inferential, if I go out and ask everybody in the room if they have blue eyes, green eyes, or whatever, that is inferential. I'm going and I'm doing a survey. I'm asking a question. I'm going out and I'm polling people. That's called inferential. A parameter is a variable dealing with the what? Population. It should have been on the previous slide. I don't know why they put that on this slide. They should have put it on the previous slide. And you don't have to write every single word. Just get the gist of it. Descriptive is finding the averages, okay? Using tables that are in the book, okay? If they give you tables of people that died in 1954, okay? Is there any way that you can go back in 1954 and find out how many people died? No. Okay, so that's descriptive. You're getting it from a table. You're getting it from your test scores. You're getting it from something, on a piece of paper. Versus going out and asking people, what's your hair color? What's your real hair color? Blonde, brunette, or redhead? Okay, that would be a survey. You're going in and you're finding that by yourself. Okay. Again, so now you got 4 questions. Okay, population, parameter, sample statistic. You got those 2 questions, and then here's 2 more questions. If it's not important, I'm going to tell you we're going to skip it. Okay, parameter versus statistic. I told you I didn't know these slides, and suppose a percentage of all students of your campus who has a job, blah, blah, blah. This is a parameter because it has to do with the population. Suppose that a sample of 250 and they find that there is 86. That would be a statistic, lowercase, which would mean this is X bar and this is mu. Mu is pronounced M-E-U. Okay, we'll get to that later. So you already wrote that down. You don't need that. I'm not going to get into all that. We're not going into research right now. Okay. Qualitative versus what? Quantitative. Quality, not what? Quantity. What does that mean? Well, quality is what makes up something. Okay? Quantity is how much makes it up. All right? Quantity is, remember, mathematical. Quantity has to deal with mathematics, meaning either you count, you add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Okay? Quantitative data is basically anything having to do with numbers where the numbers are used in calculations. What about zip codes? Tell me where you use your zip code in a mathematical calculation. You don't. So zip code would be qualitative. What about your area code? Qualitative. You don't sit there and go, okay, 8 plus 6 plus 4 is, you don't do that. You just say 864, oh, that's upstate South Carolina. What about 803? 803 is lower state. What about 843? That's around Midlands, I think, or I got them bass backwards. Which one is it? 843, isn't that Midlands?
Myrtle Beach.
Huh?
Myrtle Beach, Charleston.
Okay, 843 is is the low country, and then 803 is Midlands. Okay, I got it bass backwards, sorry. All right. What about your Social Security number? Qualitative, because it has no mathematical meaning. You got to be careful with those. Then what is quantitative? Anything that has a mathematical meaning. Height, weight. What's qualitative? Hair color, eye color. Whether you wear sandals or not, that's qualitative data. What color car you have, qualitative data. Anything having to do with a characteristic is qualitative. Anything having to do with a numerical measure is quantitative. Counting, measuring, anything like that. That's 2 test questions right there. And you will see that on a standardized test. Okay? That is one of the main standardized test questions. Whether you're taking an employment test at Michelin or nurse practice, what's it called? What do y'all get into? Clinicals? You know, you got to take a test, nursing test. Yeah, T's. They'll ask that on the T's question. So, whatever, the SAT, ACT, whatever you're taking, that is a standardized test question. Next, probably discrete and continuous, but nope. Okay, what nationality are you? Qualitative. Number of children? Quantitative, because you're counting. Household income? Quantitative. Level of education? Can you add bachelor's degree plus master's degree? No. Now remember, let's go back. Qualitative data, I'm thinking, I'm a guy, leave me alone, it takes me a minute or two. Qualitative data, what are the sections called? Blonde, brunette, redhead, what is that called? I said it a while ago. Starts with a C. Category, okay? Category, write that down. Qualitative equals category. What is quantitative? How do you divide boxers up? Or wrestlers? Well, not wrestlers. Wrestlers, you know, like high school and college wrestlers. That's wrestling, okay? Not wrestling.
Weight class?
Weight classes. So what's that? So that C word. Class. Okay? Quantitative, you break them up in classes. Qualitative, you break up in categories. Quantitative, you break up in classes. Just think, quantitative, boxing, weight classes. And then qualitative, blonde, brunettes, redheads would be category. I have no idea what that was. And that's what they're doing. They're breaking them up into classes or level of education. That would be qualitative. High school, associates, bachelor's, master's, I couldn't think of it, doctorate, okay? 5 categories. There might be certificate in there, 6 categories. Daily intake of whole grains. That would be quantitative because you're measuring. Dang old cards. All right? Is that a test question? No, the previous one is, but that's how they would ask it. They would ask it, like give you an example and you'd say, okay, that's qualitative, that's quantitative. But remember, your zip code and your social security number is not quantitative. Your area code is not quantitative, it's qualitative. Now, quantitative data can be put into 2 types of numbers. Now, I'm only going to put 2 words on this slide, and you should be able to understand it. If not, that means you're a loser. So, where do I go now? Do I go up or down? Nope. Do y'all see this slide? It's advancing itself. Okay? Where's the little picture? There it is. Okay, here we go. I don't know how it got to 5 and 6 different slides. Discrete. You blank the data. Continuous, you what? The data.
Measure.
Okay, so all you need to do now is figure out what you measure and what you count. So I'm going to name some things and you tell me if it's discrete or if it's continuous. You ready? Cars in the parking lot.
Discrete.
Good job. Y'all will miss this question on the test. I don't know why, but y'all do. Okay? Eggs in a carton.
Discrete.
People in the classroom.
Discrete.
Height of people in the classroom.
Continuous.
Height of a tree.
Continuous.
People miss that question on the test. That's a question on the test. Go out and measure height of a tree. What is it? And y'all put discrete. I don't know why. Okay, you ready for this one? Time.
Continuous.
Continuous. Good job. Okay? Because time is measured. Weight is measured. Okay, I got a pretty much female class here. How many of you have noticed that the doctor's scales are broken? See? They're broken. There are always 10 more pounds at the doctor's office than your scales at home. That's why it's continuous, because you may measure your weight here at the house, and it may be blah, blah, blah. But when you go to the doctor's, is the doctor ever less? Hell to the no. Doctor is never less. It always adds at least 5 or 10 pounds. Okay? But the whole point is, how many times have you measured the height of your children? And one person measures here and the next person measures, it all depends on who you measure or whatever. So measurements can be interpreted, measured, read. Some of y'all don't even know how to read a dadgum measuring tape. All right, so you'll just say, okay, 5, that's over 5. We'll just say 5 feet. Okay, or somebody might go, okay, that's 5 3/16. So there's variation there. So remember, a discrete variable you count. A continuous variable you measure. Name the 5 measurements: weight, height, volume, area, and time. Weight, height, volume, area, and time. You can add length to that too, like miles. How many miles is it from here to LA Walmart? I don't know, about a mile. About. You ever notice? What do people say right before they tell you a distance? About. They always say about. Why? Because you don't know exactly. And if you take a little wheel and you measure to the LA Walmart, you're going to get a different reading than what's on your car odometer. It's not going to be too far off, but it's going to be different. Okay? You'd be surprised how many people don't know that. You're welcome. Y'all are blessed to have me as a teacher. I know. All right, next. I got smokestacks on my truck. Number of children you have. I wear sunglasses in the gym too. It's my gym. I turned my garage into a gym after the divorce. One of the best things I ever did. Anyway, household income, continuous. Daily intake of whole grains. We already talked about this. I thought we did. No, we didn't. That was on the previous. Okay. I feel like we're going over stuff over and over. I guess that's why I don't use the slides. And we're doing this again. I'm not doing it again. Okay. I don't test you on this, but you need to write it down for future classes as well as standardized tests. Nominal level of measurement. How do you put things in order? Okay. How you measure things. Okay. Nominal pretty much encompasses everything. Nominal is the values of variable name, label, categorize. In addition, the naming scheme does not allow for the values of the variable to be arranged in a ranked or specific order. Why do I say blonde, brunettes, and redheads? Maybe I'm putting it in what? Alphabetical order. But I don't have to, do I? Is the numbers going to be the same? Yes. So I could put redheads first. Redheads, brunettes, blondes. I could say redheads, blondes, brunettes. I could say blondes, redheads, brunettes. I could say brunettes, redhead, blondes. It doesn't matter. Nominal means you can rate it however you want to. The numbers are still the same. Okay? Ordinal. All you got to do is write one word. Anybody know what that word is for ordinal?
Properly.
Last word.
Order.
Order. Order. Putting it in some order. The top 3 finished in the race. That's ordinal. You don't have to write anything besides that. Order. That's all you got to write down for that one. You can go back and look at the video. These are in your book. There'll be somebody get a page number. We'll tell you what page it's on, but it's pretty much order. Anything you put in order. Interval. Now these two are important because interval is like temperature. Just put temperature and I'll give you the main, and you can put your page number if you want to read the whole thing. But the reason this is temperature is interval, does 0 mean 0 degrees Fahrenheit? Does that mean there's no heat?
No.
No. If you are a science person or you took science before, 0 degrees does not mean no heat. Might be a little bit of heat in there, but not much, but there's some there. Whereas 0 in a rational, what does $0 mean? You ain't got none. Broke ass, okay? Okay? You $0 in the bank, you fixing to go into the negative, okay? All right, so just remember, ratio, pour over ratio. There's an Andy Griffith episode where Andy Griffith says, you got to give more than 3 cents to the charity fund. I was reading the other day that there was like 3.5 boys without, or 3.5 children without coats. And Opie goes, how do you have that? And he said, what? He said, a half a boy. And he said, well, it's mathematics. It's a ratio. Pour over ratio. Meaning you don't have a coat, okay? He thought it was Horatio, and every time I see the word ratio, I think of that Andy Griffith episode because I'm a weirdo and I like Andy Griffith, okay? So, 0 in your bank account is pour over ratio. It's a ratio. It's ratio measurement, meaning that 0 means you ain't got none. Where 0 in an interval, that's what determines the difference between an interval measurement and a ratio measurement. Okay? Now that is a standardized test question. So make sure you put standardized STQ beside that, okay? Standardized test question. And if you're going into other statistics courses later on, which like Mr. Poore is in a business major, he's going to go into Math Science 301 at Clemson. Okay, you got to say Clemson. You can't pronounce the P because then you're a dumb racist Southerner. So you have to say Clemson. You ever notice that on TV? It's kind of like people that live in Belton. People that live in Belton and grew up in Belton, make Belton. Okay? But somebody that's transplanted is Belton. Belton. I live in Belton, South Carolina. I live in Powdersville. Where in the hell is Powdersville? Powdersville. So either we neglect to mention some of the letters, okay? And then we add letters. If you live in Iva, it's not Iva, it's Ivor. And Seneca and Stir. Stir is S-T-I-R-R, Stir. So, anyway, I make fun of the way people talk. I guess people make fun of me, so. But I do not say with a P because I don't want to be associated with those Southerners. I have to say Clemson. So anyway, I have no idea what I was talking about.
How do you say the place inside the building?
Huh?
How do you say the place?
I can't say it. I spell it. Okay? It's Honeypath. Honeypath. It's not, I live in Honeypath. How many people that was born and raised in Honeypath say Honeypath? You, of course. You were born and raised there.
I was born there, but then we moved to Belton.
My mama's from Belton, and I could do all kinds of things with that, okay? But I'm not, okay? So I'm going to be respectful because my mother's from Belton. So Belton. I'm going to leave that alone. But you kind of had a culture diversity thing there when you went from Honeypath to Belton and then back to Honeypath. Oh, y'all fight down there. Somebody said, oh, you live in Honeypath? No, I do not. I live in Belton. It's kind of a central Clemson thing. Then people up there fight you if you say, if they live in Central and you say they're from Clemson, they'll bite your head off. Same thing with Honeypath. Okay, I don't know how did I get on that? I have no earthly idea. See how I get off on things? Okay, so number of snack and soft drink vending machines in the school. So ratio, pour over ratio. If you ain't got no vending machines, then what does 0 mean? You ain't got none. N-E-R-N, nern. Whether or not the school has closed campus policy during lunch. That's nominal because it's either going to be yes or what? No. Class rank. That's another word for order. That's ordinal. And then number of days per week a student eats school at lunch. If you don't eat school at lunch, you're going to know it, ain't you? You're going to be hungry or hangry or hungry. You know, hungry is much more intense than hungry. That's like the difference between a whooping and a whipping. You don't sit down after a whooping. You can sit down after a whipping. Usually mama gives the whipping, and then daddy gives the whooping. That was my house, okay? My daddy would pick up a daggum stick, cow stick. I never did get in trouble, so. All right, I'll shut up. 1.2. What is an observational study? Have you ever seen anybody with sleep apnea? You ever seen the videos on YouTube or the videos about people being recorded while they're sleeping? And they'll like stand up like they're possessed or whatever. They'll sit up and then they'll lay back down. And then they'll flip and turn and all this. What is that called? It's called perversion, sitting there watching somebody sleep. No, it's called an observation. Okay, so think observation, pervert. Got a V in there, okay? When you watch people, you observing people. That means that you are observing them. Okay? That's the difference between a stalker or pervert and, you know, the long walks on the beach and you're the only one that knows, you know, that you're the long walk on the beach. He's following you. Okay, pervert, observation. Okay? What is the difference between an observation and an experiment? Okay, let's say that an observation, I'm watching somebody sleep, okay, in a observation in a lab, okay? I'm not watching somebody sleep perverted. I'm watching somebody sleep, and every time they turn, I shock them with 110 volts of electricity. What is that? That's an experiment. The difference between an observation and an experiment is observation, you just what? You just watch. It's creepy just saying that, okay? You just observe. But an experiment is when you interject, you introduce, or you insert something into the observation. And then, what are you laughing about? Then it turns into an experiment, okay? Have you got a story to tell about watching somebody sleep? Okay, pervert. Next question. That's the difference between the two. I'm not going to give you their big, long, blah, 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 okay? That's an example. I'm not going to do that because I'm just going through these definitions. I'm not going to do the examples too much. Okay. I'm not going to do that. Observational study means that you're basically watching. I'm not going to. Okay, we're going to get through this very quick because I'm not going to cover this. So the only thing basically you're covering in 1.2 is just several things that we're not going over that. Not going over that. Going over that. Okay, census. Make sure you write down a census. There is nobody in this room that shouldn't know what a census is. Because all of you at least went through one census when you were 10 years old. Okay, or around there. Because it's done every what? Every 10 years. Okay? A census is where you find out who's living and how they're living in your what? Nation. Or your state, or your city, or your house, or whatever. Shut up, Hubert. No, I better not say it. This is the census. Y'all know what a census is. Quiet, keep going, be quiet. 1.3. Was that 1.3? No, that was 1.2. So,
Facebook comment.
Make sure you write down. At least my phone tells me what. Okay, I better turn that off. Make sure you. And I gotta look what time it is because I don't want nobody to explode. Dadgum. Time flies in here, doesn't it? That's 1.2. 1.2. Last word is census. Okay, what is a random sample? A random sample, key word for random sample is everyone has the same chance. Write that down. If I write down all of your names on a yellow Post-it note and fold them in half and take those yellow Post-it notes and throw them in a fishbowl and shake it up and pick one person, is that a random sample? Yes. What if I make 2 of them pink? It's not a random sample. Why? Because if you do anything to those sheets of Post-it notes to influence whether the person doesn't pick or pick them, you've just blown the random sample. You've just blown, now you're biased. We're going to get into that, okay? Because bias is one of the most important things. Neutrality and not being biased is one of the most important things in statistics. So, random sample means everyone has the same chance. That's what that means. Okay? Equally likely chance. There it is right there. Equally likely chance. I don't know why it took them 3 slides to tell that, but they are drawing this way out. There's 5 or 6 slides for a sample random sample is just too much. It's just, okay. What is a stratified? A stratified sample is when you have groups. So let's say that I divide y'all into blondes, brunettes, and redheads, and then I ask y'all who wears sandals, okay, all the time. Then that would be a stratified sample because I'm dividing y'all into groups, and then I'm asking y'all the same questions, and then I come out with blondes wear sandals more than redheads, and because there's more people wearing sandals in the blonde group. Okay, I'm just making this stuff up, okay? So a stratified is grouping, which is like small groups, where cluster, I would go to a voting precinct and ask people, which way did you vote? Conservative, liberal, or independent? Okay? And they would tell me. Why is that a cluster? Because it's a BA group. All right, you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of people versus 5 or 6, 3 or 4, 2 or 3. You're talking about hundreds. There's 46 voting precincts in Anderson County. So that's how big a cluster would be. You know, or go to Georgia and find out how many voting precincts are in Georgia or North Carolina. Each one of those would be a cluster. I'd go there and I'd say, okay, I want to find out who's going to win this election. So I'm going to go to precinct number 32 and I'm going to do a survey. Everybody walks out that door. I'm going to ask them, do they vote conservative, Republican, or independent? And I'm going to write it down and I'm going to predict who is going to win the election. That's what a cluster sample is. Versus me asking the blonde, brunettes, and redheads who they're going to vote for. Okay? And that would be a stratified, which means groups, little groups. Systematic. Put a star beside systematic because systematic is used a good bit. Put beside systematic a pattern. I go through and I pick every fourth person in this group right here and I write their name on a Post-it note and put it in. No, that's not fair. Then why would you use a systematic? For surveys, for questionnaires, for stuff like that. Every fourth person that walks out of the front doors down there, I want to ask them what color their car is. Okay, that would be, you don't want to do a systematic sample on a lottery, okay, because that's not fair. All right, what you want to do a systematic sample on is surveys and questionnaires. Polls. So that way you don't have to interview every single person that walks out the door. So systematic is a good one to use for surveys, polls, and questionnaires. And we just talked about that. When I get something important, I'll tell you. Cluster, cluster. There's examples. This is in your book. If somebody's got a book, maybe find that page and tell me what it's on.
34.
Thank you, page 34. So write that down so you'll know if you want to see the graphic. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to, I pretty much, the only thing I test you on is simple random and systematic. I don't test you on the other two. Because when you get to a 401 or 301 or a 401 statistics class, and then you take psychology, some of the psychologies, and you have to do research, you're going to have to take classes on research, and they're going to get into that. So there's no sense in getting into it now, because you're going to get into it later if you even take some of those classes. A convenient sample. Let's say I work at a rock and roll station, and I'm the DJ for a rock and roll station, and I decide, you know what, I want to find out how many people out there listening to me like rock and roll music. So I say, okay, everybody call in right now that likes rock and roll music. Why is that a convenient sample? Because everybody that listens to my station likes what?
What you like.
Rock and roll, or they wouldn't be listening to it. It is usually the least accurate. Okay? Now, that one you need to know for a test question or a standardized test question. They'll ask you those, a convenient sample versus a random sample or a other sample. A convenient sample is usually the least accurate. But it's the quickest to get results on. Okay? Results should be looked upon with extreme skepticism. That means it what? It sucks as far as getting data. Hold your pinky up. Results should be looked upon with extreme skepticism. Clemson. Bias. What is the word bias mean? Anybody want to take a chance at it?
You're against.
Not against.
Using your opinion?
Opinion has something to do with it, and against has something to do with it. But what, can anybody put it in words?
You favor something.
You favor something?
Favor
One side or the what?
Than the other.
And you try to make your math come out to the side that you want. Is this a big problem? Yes. It is one of the biggest problems in statistics. It's one of the biggest problems in the media. And I'm not saying the media, I'm saying both ways. Okay? When I was a kid, and some of y'all may be a little bit older than 18, okay? When I was a kid, when you turned on the news, they told you it's raining outside. They told you Russia is mean and they're bombing people. They said that Israel is trying to defend itself and a bus ran over a guy in California and blah, blah, blah. And how long did the news take? 30 minutes. 30 minutes. 30 minutes from 6 o'clock to 6:30, or I can't remember when it came on. Walter Cronkite. I can't even pronounce his name. NBC Nightly News, 30 minutes. It came on after the local news. The local news was 30 minutes. What is the news now? It's not news. It starts with an O. Opinions. Okay? It's all about opinions, all about this, all about that. Okay? I don't care which channel you watch. I don't even watch the local channels because that one in Greenville is a joke. All they do is try to scare people to death. I don't even watch it. Okay? We might have a 10% chance of snow. Oh my God. You watch Channel 4, the world is coming to an end and everybody's going to die. I watch the Weather Channel on my phone and I look at the percentages and I look at the radar and I see what they say. Meanwhile, people are running to LA Walmart, buying everything in the store, but you got to have two things: bread and milk. I get beer and pizza. And I got to make sure I have plenty of Coke to go with my bourbon, okay? So I have plenty of that, okay? I got that covered. Why do you buy bread and milk? I could understand if it was bread, peanut butter, and milk. I could understand that. But you don't put, everybody says, go out and get your bread and milk. Do they do that in Belton? And Honey a Path? How about in Star? Y'all do that in Star? Y'all don't live anywhere around here, do you? Y'all not going to admit where y'all from, are you? The whole point is, I have no idea what I'm talking about now. Bias is when you are using math or you using a platform to try to get your agenda what? Across. Do teachers do it? Hell yeah. That's when you cross over teaching into indoctrinating. If I tell y'all that y'all have to go out and vote for this person, and that y'all have to think this way, and if y'all don't think the way I think, you're crazy. Well, you're racist. Yeah, you're racist. That's what, I sat in one last semester. And I told Mr. Polar, I said, I'll never set foot in that class again because I'm going to get up and say something. You don't do that. Am I crazy or was she doing that? If you disagreed with her, you were, I mean, she didn't call you a racist. She probably called you some other IST name, but you're something if you don't agree. That's not the way it is. That's not the way it works, folks. Bias, how do you know if something is biased? You have to do your research. You have to get knowledge. You have to educate yourself. And whether it's math or whether it's the TV or whether it's politics or whether it's in your classroom, you don't take being told how to think. You don't do that. I don't care which side you're on. That's something that really gets on my goat. I'm gonna have to jump on the slides because I get really irritated when you tell somebody who to vote for or how to think. I get really mad. Anyway, okay. So, how do people use bias? Well, like I said, they use it in the classroom, they use it in the media, they use it but they can shave some of the numbers to make the numbers look right. Or they can make a graphic and put it in a magazine to make the numbers look bigger than they're supposed to. They'll give you some examples in the book and in the homework. You've got to know your stuff, and that's why a lot of people... Have you ever met somebody that you told you need to vote for this person? And they go, okay. That's what our society is getting to now. Our society... have you ever watched some of the jaywalking? Or you ever watched where commentators go out and ask college kids who the Vice President of the United States is? And they don't even know? These people vote. And they procreate too. All right? And they drive. That's sad. You don't know common civics. Okay? I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about just civics. Who is the Vice President of the United States? Who is the Secretary of State? Who invaded who over in blah, blah, blah? Oh, no. And these are college students. It's sad. But if you don't know, if you don't have the knowledge, then you can be taken what? Advantage of. And that's true, period. And I'm very emotional about that. Dang old, look up Candace Owens. Dang old, she'll tell you about it. Okay. Y'all don't even know who Candace Owens is. Google her. Then the sample has bias. Sampling bias, non-responsive bias, responsive bias. Basically, different biases. I said media. I said in the classroom. Classroom is non-responsive because if you disagree with the teacher's going to call you or give you a failing grade. And if you don't think that happens, it does. It may not happen in South Carolina because, bless their hearts, we still kind of normal in South Carolina. But you go out in California, up in New York, and you disagree with one of those college professors, you'll get pasted to the wall or nailed to the wall, okay? You do it. See what happens. You got to watch that stuff. Okay. Response bias, that means that you can even do it in your questionnaire or survey. I'm going to write 5 questions here about who you're going to vote for. You're not going to vote for a blah, blah, blah party, are you? Yes or no? You can't ask questions like that. You say, who will you vote for in the blah, blah, blah election? Blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. You don't say you're not going to vote for. You don't say, you don't make da, da, da. You don't put those words in there. And there's a whole class. When you get your master's and go for your master's and doctorate, you go through a whole class on research documentation to where you ask questions that are not what? Leading. Okay? So that's response bias, where you lead the question. I ask you, you're not going to go see that movie, are you? That's a leading question. That throws a negative connotation on what I'm asking you. And you're going to naturally say, what? No, I don't think so now. So you got to watch it. And the sampling bias is when you do the research on a sample and you swing the data, you cut off some of the numbers so you can make it look blah, blah, blah. I'll give you an example of that when we have more time. And it was over the last election. It was during the Republican presidential nomination when you had like 18 people. Okay, I don't know. But there was a poll put out right before a debate. And what they were trying to do, they, meaning the political elite, they found out that Jeb Bush wasn't going to do nothing because he couldn't get 1%. Okay, they found out he was a dud. So they had to find somebody because they couldn't promote Trump because he was not an elitist. Okay, so they had to do something. So what did they do? They picked Ted Cruz from Texas. Okay, and they said, we're going to start backing him because we got to get behind him so he can beat Trump. Because at that time, Trump was at 25%. I watched this, okay? I did because I saw this coming a long time ago. They put out a poll right before the second or third debate. And the poll was from rinky-dink polling, and it said, Ted Cruz is going to win, blah, 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 by 25%, blah, blah, blah. And everybody was like looking cross-eyed at this. And down at the bottom, you know how many people they surveyed? It was a national poll, 100. A national freaking, go look and see how many people are in the United States. They did 100 people, and the margin of error was 8%. So that was basically, you ever heard of a hit job? That was a hit job done by some statistical place to try to get support behind another candidate. That was a modern day biased hit job. And it happens. And then they'll show you some examples in the book to where media like publication, what do you call it, periodicals like newspapers, and sometimes the bias is not true. It's ignorant. Like if I'm a statistician for this newspaper and I do all the math and I do it very biased, very unbiased, very neutral, and I do it, I check my calculation, I do it, and I draw a picture of the graph and I send it down to graphics. Does the graphics person that makes it all pretty, does he know anything about statistics? No. And he's just going to throw it up there, and he may make the picture disproportionate to the numbers. Now that's called accidental bias. That's not intentional. But you have all kinds. So you're going to see the bias examples in the book when they show you an example of a soccer ball, and the soccer ball is like this 15 times bigger than the little soccer ball. And the numbers are only like twice as much, but the ball is like 10 times bigger than the other ball. You'll see it because that's the one I use on test, or one like it. Okay, and you'll see it. Don't worry. Let me check the time before y'all explode. Okay, it's 15 till 7, right? So let me get the thing out, pass it around before somebody like self-combust. Well, then y'all start fidgeting, and then you start zipping your book bags and all that rude behavior. Okay. Put the date right there. Check your name off. Just put a check. Okay. Now we're in 1.5. I think this is, somebody look on your outline. Is 1.5 the last one in chapter 1? Yes. Oh, y'all got some homework to do. Yeah. Sampling bias means that you are putting leading questions into your surveys. Okay? Or, now I'm taking this from past, this is called retrospective studies. A lot of cigarette companies in the past were targeting minorities and underage smokers. They got caught doing it, okay? That's what you call, that's not right, all right? And that's when you go out and get a, let's say you want to go in, let's say you want to find out who's going to vote for this person, and you go to everybody that hates this person, okay? What are they naturally going to say if you ask them, are you going to vote for this person? Okay, then your poll is going to come out 97% said they weren't going to vote for this person. Well, what you're not telling the public or the people that are looking at your poll, you went to everybody that hated their guts. Okay, John Smith, let's say that John Smith is running for mayor. And you go down to these people and John Smith put a garbage dump right in the middle of the subdivision, okay? So naturally, all the people in the subdivision hate John Smith, right? So you're gonna go and you're gonna go there instead of all over the county, you're gonna go to that subdivision and you're gonna survey 100 people and 98% of them are gonna hate John Smith. And you're gonna put that all over the newspaper. What is that called? That's bias. You can't do that, okay? Judges, are they biased? No, they should not be. Okay, one thing they teach you in law school, and I know some lawyers, and they bias. You got to be right down the middle. You got to be right down the middle. Referees and umpires in all games except for Clemson games, because Clemson blames the referees for everybody. Clemson fans, oh my gosh, I would not. If you told me I was a referee and you told me I had to be in a Clemson game, I'd say hell no, because those Clemson fans are going to blame you for everything that happens on that field. It's one of the reasons I don't like Clemson, and I got 2 degrees from there. I love the coach, I love the school, and I love the football team. Who do I hate? The fans. Okay. Now there's two different types of fans. There's fans that support the team, and then there's the idiots. I'm not talking about the fans that support the team. I'm talking about the idiots. They go out and want to fight you because you like South Carolina, or they go out and they want to beat up the referee because the referee lost the game. Or people are crazy, all right? And I don't like them. Okay, all right. Now, bias. I done forgot what I was talking about, but anyway, we'll go to the next thing. Y'all got to tell me what I'm talking about before I go off track. That's y'all's job. Oh well. Non-response bias. And I told you what this is. Okay? Callbacks, especially with a callback. Or you're put in a position to where you can't voice your opinion. That's called a response bias. Okay? Let's say that I set up a callback and I say, how many people blah, 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 and I just make up something and I say, okay, I'm going to take all the calls before 5 o'clock because after 5 o'clock, that's when all the adults are going to say. So I'm going to cut it off at 5 o'clock. Well, why is that bias? Because if I cut the phone call responses off at 5 o'clock, what time do people get off work?
5 o'clock.
And they can't get home to do the callback, or they can't receive the poll. So I'm being biased because I'm only getting the people that don't what? Don't work, or that don't work the regular shift, 9 to 5. So that's being biased. Or I say, okay, we're going to take a poll in here, and if y'all vote for blah, 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 y'all are all racist, and I'm going to pass out the poll. That's not right. You can't do that. Okay? Response bias. That's where you do the leading questions. All right? Misrepresented answers. Wording of questions. That is the number one. Okay? And number one goes back, number 3 goes to what? Number 1. The interviewer is the one that usually does the questions. Okay? But the number 1 and number 3, that's basically the two main ones. I'm not going to ask you the difference between the responses. I just want you to be aware of them. Not going to get into that. Non-sampling error, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's 1.6. We're not going to go through 1.6. Okay, so I'm going to cut the handy-dandy recording off right now so I can talk and so it can process.